This is Beyond the Cot, a weekly podcast connecting the packs of F3 Knoxville and beyond through invigorating male community leadership, through fitness, fellowship, and faith.
Avengers!
Assemble.
38 school zone.
School zone. 34 strip.
40 kickflip. 56 high heels.
High heels, respect. 37 trunk.
The F3 Knoxville Beyond the Cot podcast starts right now.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Cot podcast. My name is Steen, Comms Q for F3 Knoxville. Hope everyone is doing well. And welcome back to the show. Welcome to season 4 of Beyond the Cot podcast. Super stoked to be back in the studio and actually be recording again for the show. I stepped away for a couple seasons there. Had a new life season with getting married, and just some awesome things happen as I transitioned the show over to our weasel shaker of F3 Knoxville, Blindside, and he has done an excellent job with season 2 and season 3. If you've not listened to some of those episodes, go back and listen to them. They are fantastic. A lot of great stuff packed in there. Just about some of the stories our guys are telling around F3 Knoxville with their influence in F3 and beyond. So really encourage you to go listen to season 3 and season 2. Really great bite-sized episodes you can take on your way to work, take on your way to the gym, if you go to the gym, or on the way to an AO, to an F3 workout. So go check them out. Blindside is not out of the picture. We are actually going to hear from him and some of our other SLT or shared leadership team later on in season 4, which I'm really pumped about. And what's going to happen is, as we continue to grow the podcast and get more guys involved in the show, the Weasel Shaker and Comms Q, so Blindside and me right now, are going to run the podcast, and we're really excited about that. You'll hear from other high-impact men in our region as we go over updates and just really neat things that are going on around F3 Knoxville. But for the kickoff episode of season 4 of the show, we wanted to talk a little bit about the holiday that was yesterday. So if you did not know, yesterday was Father's Day. So this episode is called To All the Dads Out There. Whether you're an F3 dad or you're not an F3 dad, if you're not an F3 dad, you should be part of F3. So head over to f3knoxville.com, find a workout location near you. We'd love to have you. But to all the dads, all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day, one day late. Hopefully you had a great day yesterday. Hopefully you felt celebrated and seen and known. Father's Day is great for a lot of people. And we just wanted to kick off season 4 with talking a little bit about fathers and fatherhood and maybe some of the impact that fathers have on our families, on our communities, and our spheres of influence, as we would call them in F3. So I want to address something first before we kind of dive into some fast facts about fatherhood. And basically, I found these facts online, so you know they're true. But that's probably not true, actually. But there is a lot of great statistical data on fatherhood and the impact fathers have, as well as the impact that a community has, or a city or state or country or world has when a father is not present in the home, or there's a absent father, for example. And some of you are like, oh, I want to turn this off right now because I do not want to hear about this. And that's okay. It's okay. I acknowledge that. This is a heavy topic, right? And this is not just we all are in the same boat when it comes to our experience with our fathers, or our experience as a father, even. So 2 things I want to address. Father's Day was yesterday. Some of you may be like, man, I love Father's Day. It's a great time. Get to celebrate my dad. I had a great dad. I had a great father. It was great to get to celebrate him with the family. My experience with my dad was great. Some of you might be in that camp, and that's a blessing. That is absolutely a blessing. Some of you on the other side of that coin might be like, hey, I actually don't look forward to Father's Day. It's not a day I just am excited about, because there's a lot of baggage, there's a lot of potentially trauma, there's a lot of hard things that come up when I think about my experience with my father. And maybe I didn't have a father. Maybe he was never in the picture, or maybe he was in the picture, and for whatever reason, he just wasn't really there. He was there, but he wasn't really there. And so maybe some of you are hearing this and listening to this thinking, I don't really like this idea of fatherhood. I don't like Father's Day. It just brings up bad memories, right? And that's okay, because what you cannot change is your experience. Regardless of what your experience was, that is your experience. So I just want to acknowledge that regardless of where you find yourself, you may have a very different experience with Father's Day than what you would probably see on Facebook on Father's Day, or Twitter or Instagram, right? And so just want to acknowledge that. And, this is a heavy issue for a lot of people. It's not always just a walk in the park. It's not always a positive experience, but one of the things that we do in F3 is that we want forward advancement. We want forward movement in our lives in very healthy ways. And so we're going to talk about some of the impact that fathers have on a family, on kids, in our communities, in our world, really, both good and bad, right? Whether the father is in the home and present or not. And so hopefully these stats I'm about to read are not meant to scare anyone, but it's just real. It's just real out there. There's a real issue with absent fathers, and fathers not stepping up, not showing up, and being the men, being the fathers they're called to be. So, doing some research, there is a organization called the National Fatherhood Initiative. And what they do essentially is they do run all these reports on fatherhood. And I was looking this up yesterday, thinking about my own experience with not being a father right now biologically, but thinking about my experience with my father and with spiritual fathers and guys in F3 that have fathered me over the years, and thinking about what a massive issue this is that we get to talk about today. So here are some facts, starting off with the father absence crisis in America. So 18.4 million children, 1 in 4, without a biological step or adoptive father at home. There are 18.4 million children, so 1 in 4, without a biological stepfather or adoptive father at home. Research shows when a child is raised in a father-absent home, they're affected in the following ways. They're 4 times greater, they're at a greater risk, 4 times greater risk of poverty, more likely to have behavioral problems. They're at a 2 times greater risk to have infant mortality. They're more likely to go to prison, more likely to commit crime, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen, more likely to face abuse and neglect, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, 2 times more likely to drop out of school. So, one, that's pretty scary. Those are some big facts right there, right? When you think about 1 in 4 children grow up without a biological step or adoptive father at home. And maybe you can relate, or maybe you can't. Maybe you're like, I don't relate to that. My father was present, he was home, he was part of my life, and thank God for that. Like that is a blessing. But some of you may be able to relate, and maybe that hits a part of your story or your experience. It's like, oh, I don't want to go there. That's a tough part. But this was part of a recent 2022 study. Now, on the flip side of that, we're going to get into the strengths of a father being present, the strengths of a father being there and showing up, essentially. And once again, as we get into all of this too, there's no shame, regardless of what your experience was or is. Maybe you are a current father or current dad or want to be a dad and think, man, I don't know if I can do this, because my experience with my dad or my father was not great. So what does that say about my trajectory, about being a father? And let me be the first to tell you, cast that out. that does not have to be your experience or your trajectory. Just because you may have experienced something negative when it comes to a father or father figure, that doesn't change the past and never will, but it can change the trajectory of how you father your own kids or father those around you. Like I said, there's not just biological fathers, there are stepfathers, there are adoptive fathers, there are spiritual fathers, right? There are a lot of men that father really well to their own kids, yes, but also to people that are not their own kids. That has been my story within F3 and a lot of ours as well. But let's jump into the positives of a father being present. But it is not all bad, because next we're going to take a look at the strengths of a father's presence. When a father is present in the home, and once again, this is from the National Fatherhood Initiative. Now, I'm going to include all of the links to all of these facts, to their website, to some really great data and reports that they have put out over the years. Once again, this is from 2022, so I will include that in the show notes so you can check them out on your own time. So check the notes below. But let's get into the strengths of a father's presence. When a father is present in the home, children with involved fathers have a strong foundation for child well-being. They are at lower risk for a host of poor childhood outcomes. So some of these childhood outcomes that they have a significantly lower risk for when a father is present in the home is infant mortality, low birth weight, emotional and behavioral problems, neglect and abuse, injury, obesity, poor school performance, teen pregnancy, incarceration as juveniles, alcohol and substance abuse, criminal activity, and even suicide. So the facts don't lie. When a father is present in the home, there is a distinct correlation and relationship with how they are able to impact their family, their kids, their communities. And you think about the larger picture, scope out to 90,000 feet and even more to the overall world we live in. When fathers are present in the home, it has a incredibly positive ripple effect and impact on kids in the next generation. And so it's not all bad. I don't share these stats and these facts and reports to scare you or to shame anyone. There's no shame in your story, regardless of how you grew up, how you were raised. Maybe you were raised with a great father. Maybe you didn't have a father in the picture. Hey, there's no shame in that. That's part of your story and experience. However, that does not have to be your story moving forward in the way you father or you parent or you become a dad, or maybe you are a dad right now. And so some of that is just really interesting to look at when you think about the relationship that you had with your dad, if you had one, and how that affects how you parent as a father or as a dad. A lot of what we get to do in F3 is yes, we work out. People know us for our workouts, but what we really get to do is our mission. The mission of F3 is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men for the invigoration of male community leadership. And it starts in the home. It starts in the home with how we love our wives or our families or our loved ones, right? With how we intentionally father others and care for others. Now, there's a great movie called Courageous. Came out a while ago, actually. But it's a great movie from the Kendrick brothers. If you have not seen it, please go check it out. I actually included a link in the show notes where you can watch the entire movie for free on YouTube. And I highly encourage any man, anyone that is currently a father, anyone that is thinking about being a father, to go and watch this movie. And really what it deals with is intentional men being intentional in their lives as fathers, as husbands, as community leaders, as servant leaders. And what I'm going to play you next is going to be the final speech in the movie. So as the movie closes, there is a spoiler alert if you have not seen it, but it is a great speech. Maybe you've heard this on YouTube, or maybe you've seen it before as well, but this is the final speech. And I really think the way the Kendrick brothers wrote this speech it is very true in today's culture with the impact that fathers have, regardless of if they are present in the home or not in the home. And so it talks a lot about the facts that that I just shared earlier in the episode. So here is the final speech from the movie Courageous, and give it a listen.
As a law enforcement officer, I've seen firsthand the deep hurt and devastation that fatherlessness brings in a child's life. Our prisons are full of men and women who have lived recklessly after being abandoned by their fathers, wounded by the men who should have loved them the most. Many of these children now follow the same pattern of irresponsibility that their fathers did. While so many mothers have sacrificed to help their children survive, they were never intended to carry the weight alone. We thank God for them. But research is proving that a child also desperately needs a daddy. There's no way around this fact. As you know, earlier this year, my family endured the tragic loss of our 9-year-old daughter, Emily. Her death forced me to realize that not only had I not taken advantage of the priceless time I had with her, but that I did not truly understand how crucial my role was as a father to her and our son, Dylan. Since her passing, I've asked God to show me through His Word how to be the father that I need to be. I now believe that God desires for every father to courageously step up and do whatever it takes to be involved in the lives of his children. But more than just being there, providing for them, He's to walk with them through their young lives and be a visual representation of the character of God, their Father in heaven. The father should love his children and seek to win their hearts. He should protect them, discipline them, and teach them about God. He should model how to walk with integrity and treat others with respect. He should call out his children to become responsible men and women who live their lives for what matters in eternity. Some men will hear this and mock it or ignore it. But I tell you that as a father, you are accountable to God for the position of influence He has given you. You can't fall asleep at the wheel, only to wake up one day and realize that your job or your hobbies have no eternal value, but the souls of your children do. Some men will hear this and agree with it, but have no resolve to live it out. Instead, they will live for themselves and waste the opportunity to leave a godly legacy for the next generation. But there are some men who, regardless of the mistakes we've made in the past, regardless of what our fathers did not do for us, will give the strength of our arms and the rest of our days to loving God with all that we are, and to teach our children to do the same. And whenever possible, to love and mentor others who have no father in their lives, but who desperately need help and direction. And we are inviting any man whose heart is willing and courageous to join us in this resolution. In my home, the decision has already been made. You don't have to ask who will guide my family, because by God's grace, I will. You don't have to ask who will teach my son to follow Christ, because I will. Who will accept the responsibility of providing and protecting my family? I will. Who will ask God to break the chain of destructive patterns in my family's history? I will. Who will pray for and bless my children to boldly pursue whatever God calls them to do? I am their father. I will. I accept this responsibility, and it is my privilege to embrace it. I want the favor of God and His blessing on my home. Any good man does. So where are you, men of courage? Or are you fathers who fear the Lord? It's time to rise up and answer the call that God has given to you, and to say, I will. I will. I will.
So that is the final speech from the movie Courageous. Highly recommended. Highly recommend you watch this as a man, as a father, or someone who thinks about becoming a father one day, like myself. I watched it with my wife, and it is just a really powerful movie. Depicts a lot of things as it relates to marriage and raising children and being a father and the failures of a father and redemption, forgiveness, all this good stuff. And the Kendrick brothers just do a fantastic job with it. So that was a lot to listen to. Even hearing that for the fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever time, maybe you've heard of that a lot, like me. But listening back to that, it's kind of just mind blowing to think about the impact a father has on the home, on the kids, on the community, on the world around us, our spheres of influence. So if you are a father, if you're a dad right now, thank you for what you're doing. It's a hard job, I'm sure, and we need more of you. And it's not even we. Your kids need more of you. Your family needs more of you. The world needs more high impact dads to step up and say, I will step up and lead my family and lead my wife, lead my kids. And we can see the stats don't lie. Facts don't lie. They're facts. The facts of when a father is involved in the home is tremendously more impactful on a child's life than when a father is not present or not in the home. And so to all you men out there who maybe aren't dads yet or aren't fathers yet, like myself, but maybe you are mentoring others, maybe you are fathering in a different way, maybe you're a stepfather, maybe you are an adopted father, maybe you're a spiritual father. Thank you for what you're doing as well. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there in whatever capacity you may find yourself as a dad. Happy Father's Day. And welcome to season 4 of the show. Hey, all of the links are going to be in the show notes to watch the movie Courageous, to watch the final speech that we just heard. Also, you can find links to all of the data and reports I mentioned about fathers being present and fathers being absent from the National Fatherhood Initiative. Great website to check out. All of that you can find in the show notes, as well as to find more information about who we are as F3 Knoxville, how to get plugged in with us, and more information about F3 Nation, a network of high-impact men that are striving to be better, more equipped men to lead and serve in whatever sphere of influence and season life has them in. So thanks for tuning in to Season 4 of the show. Once again, this is Steam, the comms queue for F3 Knoxville. I'm so glad you're joining us back for Season 4. We are pumped to kick this season off. I mentioned earlier in the episode what's going to come down the pike for our season. So we are going to do 2 episodes coming up. One is going to come up soon, and it is a State of the Union for F3 Knoxville. Some of our SLT, our shared leadership team, got together, sat down, and talked about some of the things that have happened in our region over the past 5 months or past 6 months. And so we do a look back in part 1 of our State of the Union. You know, we went through some hard things so far this year. We went through some amazing growth and other things through this year. And so some members of our SLT get together to chat about that. Part 2 will be later on in season 4 of this show, and it will be looking forward to the next 6 months, some awesome things that we have coming up as a region in terms of events, in terms of initiatives to accelerate your fitness, your fellowship, your faith as well. And so some of our SLT gather together, sit down and talk about, hey, what are we excited about as a region as we continue to grow and surge forward into 2023. We hope you'll tune in to the rest of season 4. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Cot. To all the dads out there, happy Father's Day.